Hello, I'm David Gibson, editor of Third Wednesday magazine. Welcome to another edition of Third Wednesday's Readers. Tonight's guest is Rob Hardy, whose forthcoming chapbook from Finishing Line Press is Shelter in Place. The book includes 3 poems that originally appeared in Third Wednesday: Icicles, Floodplain, Forest, Wild Onion. Oh, and a 4th letter. I almost forgot that one. Actually, the winner of the winter issue 2021's 50/50 contest at Third Wednesday. Publication date for Rob's book is set for February 18th. Pre-orders are encouraged. Rob lives in Northfield, Minnesota, where he is currently the poet laureate of the city of Northfield. And my experience has been that Northfield is a real hotbed of contemporary poetry. So congratulations to Rob on that appointment. And without further ado, let's welcome Robert Hardy.
Thank you, David. I just want to start with some poems from the chapbook. I also want to thank my friend Matt Klooster for providing the beautiful cover art for the chapbook. And I'll start with Letter, which was first published in Third Wednesday. In those days, we wrote letters. We licked a stamp and placed it in the corner of the envelope. The stamp cost 13 cents. I still have a letter you wrote me the day after a snowstorm almost 30 years ago. I can still see you making a path through the snow to the bird feeder, the scribble of sunflower seed on the ground. As you sat at your desk, you could watch the birds through the window: chickadees, juncos, purple finches. In the spring, you wrote, the ground would be littered with the empty husks of seeds. You have been dead for 30 years, but there in the ink is the shadow of your hand, and sealed behind the stamp, your tongue. Most of the poems in the chapbook were written last year, and so they have a kind of a topical nature relating to the events of last year. This one was originally called COVID-19 Variations. I'm thinking that it should be called Variants at this point. Corvid, a name of bird, crow or raven, an absence of light perched ominously on the bare branch of a roadside tree, descending after the impact to dance. Ovid, a poet who wrote, we are slow to believe in the things that cause us harm, and abundance has made me poor. Comorbid, existing simultaneously in a patient, as in anxiety and depression are frequently comorbid, as in all the comorbidities of March, sap running and ice going out, the song of the red-winged blackbird and the color brown, chapped hands and empty shelves. COVID-19. At this distance from yesterday and one another, sometimes we have to be the bird singing somewhere in the woods, who for now exists only as its song. This one's called Lyrical Dresses, and it's for my friends Daphne and Joy. I need bread to indulge my sense of touch. I take long walks to breathe deeply. Often I stop to look at the trees, the glow and fade of trees as clouds move across the sun. Trees dancing to the choreography of wind. This morning I looked up lyrical dresses to learn what the maples are wearing as they sway outside my window. Sometimes I feel like I'm looking at ordinary life through the wrong end of a telescope. Everything close to me seems so far away. Sometimes I cry for no reason. Sometimes I sing because I feel the urge to sing. It's like this every day. The next one is Reopening. The leaves come in their own time. The maples are winded and summer green, before the oaks and cottonwoods commit. In other years, so much of this happened without my noticing. Today, in the woods above the marsh, fragments of sunlight and turbulent shadow. The shadow of a red-tailed hawk, multiplied by aspen and birch, moves swiftly up the trees. I feel it too, as if I have become something much smaller. I want to stay like this a while longer. About 3 days before everything shut down, my wife and I renewed our passports because we had been planning to spend the fall on sabbatical in Greece. Well, we didn't get to go to Greece, but I wrote a poem about renewing my passport, and it starts with a quote from pages 20 through 21 of the US passport. This is a quote from Lyndon Baines Johnson. Is our world gone? We say farewell. Is a new world coming? We welcome it. My new passport has never been anywhere. It lies in an old shoebox, like a dead pet awaiting burial, with unspent euros and European plug adapters, maps of Athens and central London, and other places we visited in a different world. The box says, New Balance. Sometimes I take out my expired passport and look at the stamps. London, Frankfurt, Osaka, Athens, remembering how I stood in line to receive them like a sacrament, remembering the places themselves, the pieces of myself left there, irretrievable. The future feels like unclaimed baggage. There's nowhere else in the world I can go. I'm thinking of getting a better box. And 2 more poems. The last poem from the chapbook is called Light. Through the sleepless night, Orion still strode above the rooftops of the town. The sunrise still unfurled its pink and blue as if announcing a birth. The sun still rose, and as it rose, it burnished the prairie grass. Nothing had been taken from the beauty of the world. Even the raucous geese were beautiful with the light of morning on their wings. Even the gray November woods were filled with light. A young woman stepped from the path to walk in the fallen leaves, just for the pleasure of the music they made. She smiled, and the leaves whispered at her feet. The light seemed to rise up from the earth, up the stems of the grass, into the bare branches of the trees. The light was all around us, and still it rises. And I'd like to end with a poem that if I don't read it at a poetry reading, people ask me to read it. It's kind of my one hit, I guess. This one is called To the Daughter I Never Had. I saw you today at the playground. You were wearing a little dress that reminded me of all the dresses I never bought for you, all the sundresses and twirly skirts, all the Hannah Anderson. You were on the swing, leaning back, reaching up with your candy-striped legs as if to reinsert yourself into an imaginary heaven, into the realm of possibility. You didn't see me watching you from a future in which you don't exist, but sometimes you smile at me from the face of another man's daughter, a smile that contains all the mornings we never baked bread together, all the cartwheels you never turned, all the stories you never told me about all the things that never happened. You were 6 or 9 or 15, and always as beautiful as I imagined, growing up smart and graceful and strong, and I am glad, and it breaks my heart that you have become all this without me. I have spent what would have been your entire life breaking up fights between the boys, scrubbing the floor around the toilet, trying to get them to change their underwear, and knowing that I could not love anyone more, not even you. Perhaps someday you will understand how it's possible to regret the life that never was and still love nothing more than the life that is. Thank you so much. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Rob. Boy, and behind the stamp, your tongue, from the poem Letter, winner of the Winter 2021 50/50 contest at Third Wednesday. And if ever there was a deserving winner, that last line was a deserving winner. I want to thank Rob Hardy. His latest book, Shelter in Place. Pre-orders are encouraged from Finishing Line Press. And thank you very much, audience, for listening. Good night.